next we're going to be looking at using the Muti-cut tool and different tools in Maya that are going to help clean up topology. Before going into this, it's worth noting that the style we're going for with this particular object is Roki's method of coloring, which, as you can see, uses geometry to section out each area that uses a different color. That's because they use one UV sheet and one kind of UV sheet of swatches. So instead of loading in multiple textures, they're just loading in one. So that's kind of how they're affording to do that in terms of efficiency. For other games, like for example, if you're making a realistic table, this is not what you would do. You wouldn't be putting in geometry for every grain that you have or anything like that. You'd be doing that with textures. So it's worth noting that the method we're using here is Roki specific. So what I've done here is I've reverted back to our model that we've kind of been creating during these videos. And you can see here that the tabletop area has a lot of n-gons. You can particularly see if I go to edge mode, you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's a 6-edged shape right there. Even though this looks like one edge, because it has a vertex in the middle, it counts as 2. Okay, so sometimes you can get, for example, a shape like this, which looks like a quad, like it looks like a square, which is usually 4 sides, but because it has these vertex points in the middle, that's counting these as 2 edges and counting these as 3. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to be using a combination of the Muti-cut tool here. The way that you use the Muti-cut tool is you click it and then you go to your mesh and you hover over one vertex point. So say for example this one, and then you hover over the next vertex point that you want to draw a line to, and you click and it will make this yellow line. Now the way that Muti-cut tool works is if I was to keep clicking, it would keep drawing stuff. So you want to make sure that that's not the case. Okay. To be honest, I would quite like it to join here as well. But once you've drawn the line and that's finalized, you hit enter. Okay, and then that will make that finalized in that topology. You might have noticed there when I was clicking about, you can draw anywhere on a shape. So be careful that you are actually selecting a vertex point. That's why you want to wait for it to go red when you hover over it, okay? Or you might accidentally draw a duplicate vertex point next to it. Now, the way that we want to check what is an n-gon, because I did that one by hand, like I kind of spotted that was an n-gon and fixed it, but you might miss some, especially if you're modeling something for a very long time. So the way that you want to do that is you select your object, you go over to mesh, and you have up here the cleanup tool, and you want to make sure you're selecting the option box for that. Okay. There's a couple of modes here just to take note of. So the first one is under the cleanup effect, you have 2 options here. One is the cleanup matching polygons, which is going to be Maya automatically trying to clean up anything that's an n-gon. We don't want to do that because sometimes it can do that really inefficiently. So what we're going to do instead is we're going to choose select matching polygons, and that's going to look for anything that has more than 4 sides and highlight it for us, and then we'll manually go in and fix that using the Muti-cut tool. So make sure this one is selected, the select matching polygons. The next one is we're going to want to look for faces with more than 4 sides. Okay, so as we know, any face that has more than 4 sides is an n-gon, so that's what we're searching for. Now, if I was to click apply, there we go, apply, you can see here that anything that is blue, it's blue on my screen because I've kind of set that in my preferences. It might be green for you, but that is an n-gon. So I can go through and using my Muti-cut tool, for example, I can draw a line here. And then if I was going to click apply again, you can see that's no longer highlighted. Okay, so you essentially just want to do that throughout your models. Another option that is in this pop-up box that's worth noting is this one here saying non-manifold geometry. Usually you would always want non-manifold geometry ticked and faces with more than 4 sides. Non-manifold geometry we'll get a little bit more into when we're doing UVing, but it's good just to know where they are. They're usually indicated with kind of green little dots rather than these faces being highlighted, but they can sometimes cause UV issues. So when you are doing the cleanup tool, make sure you have non-manifold geometry ticked and faces with more than 4 sides.